what's going on, everyone? My apologies. I had some technical difficulties that I was trying to figure out over the last 15 minutes. We finally got that, so we're here. Thank you, everyone, so much for waiting for me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're ready to hop into this bad boy and kick things off. I'll go a little bit past 10 o'clock to make sure that, we get our 1 hour in. So what's up, everyone? What's happening? Everyone's like, Brodes, you're late. I know. I apologize. It was nothing other than trying to fix some issues that was going on. So what's happening, everyone? Where do we begin? Well, the Sixers are still in drama land, if you will, looking for what to do. They sign Andre Dillard. They add a stretch four as well. Furkan Korkmaz coming back into the mix is always hysterical. And the Phillies. I tweeted this out before the game started. Zach Wheeler's literally about to put this team 1.5 games back after a Mets loss, aren't they? Or isn't he? And the answer was yes. 7 1/3. The Josh Bell home run makes it feel worse than what it was for the 4 earned runs, but he was dominant and it was fantastic. Let's go to our cup of coffee. I was going to say let's go to the phones. I don't know what phones we're going to go to, but let's go to our cup of coffee and enjoy. Cheers, everybody. Cheers, cheers, cheers. Amazing. Hector says, I cannot believe that Andre Drummond and Embiid are teammates. Yeah, I mean, I don't have that much of a problem with it. I know that there's some that think that that's a big issue. I can't imagine that being anything serious, right? I mean, we're talking about professional basketball players who were competing at a high level. They would chirp one another, they'd get into each other's faces. But once you're in the same locker room and you have the same goal, you put that stuff behind you. This happens all the time in the league. And yeah, Joel takes it to a different level when we discuss trolling, but ultimately they're going to be fine. And it's like, hey, let's go battle together. We got the same jersey on. Let's go compete. It's really not going to be that much of an issue. But it is funny to go back at some of them and talking about how much, I live rent free or you live rent free in my head or whatever the hell the saying is, back and forth on social media and whatnot. At the end of the day, though, when it comes to what matters, which is production, I sense that it's going to be a a Dwight Howard 2.0. You're literally getting Dwight Howard again. You're going to get boneheaded mistakes. You'll get a lot of rebounds. The only thing I'm hoping for that would be different here is maybe when Joel Embiid is unavailable, then he could start. Dwight Howard could not start. He was limited to a bench role no matter who was available, no matter if Joel was playing or wasn't playing. Hopefully, Andre Drummond in game 46 of the regular season, when Joel Embiid's just taking a day off, they have an opportunity to play Andre Drummond. Did I see that Ben was chirping people? I did not. I said this before. I'm done. I'm done with videos. I don't care. It's year 5, off season 6, whatever the hell it is. I'm sick and tired of videos. I won't give it a second of my time. I won't react to it. I won't give it a second of my life. So I did not see that he was going back and forth with individuals about what his form, his shooting. It's crazy. I mean, here he goes. He's backing down, shoulder hit, and then a jumper. Couple shoulder hits. Use the shoulder, create your space. Shoot. Okay. That means nothing to me. You won't do that in a game. So it means nothing to me. Hey, Brodes, what would you say the worst acceptable package you'd accept? It's probably in the tier of the Colin Sexton, Kevin Love, and that type of trade offer, or the Malcolm Brogdon and the pick, which now changes a lot because after the draft, you no longer have that access. So I don't know, future picks, however they set it all up, that's probably the floor. But I don't know if that means that's Daryl Morey's floor or your worst acceptable offer. That's what I'm referencing when I'm saying the floor of my trade. That would be me. But at the same time, I was talking to Paul Hudrick last night, covers the Sixers for 97.3, formerly with NBC Sports Philadelphia. And he's like, you don't move Ben for anything. If you can get your Beal, if you can get your Lillard, yes, that is acceptable. But you don't just toss around Ben Simmons just to throw him around. And I know. You are correct. Trading him for Brogdon and Sexton is not ideal. And if you can land a Lillard with putting together more pieces to the puzzle and throwing a bunch more assets at the opposing team to land a Beal or to land a Lillard, then how can you trade Ben Simmons for a Brogdon or a Sexton when you only have one swing at this thing? I'm sorry. It's just it can't come back. He can't come back. So you got to make a trade, Morey. You got to make a trade. Got to find a way. You have to find a way. Yeah, I do need to start posting more on TikTok. I went through a phase where I was posting a lot. Then I kind of got sidetracked because I got so much going on. And then I keep watching TikToks all day, but I don't have the ambition to make one. I was actually thinking about, because I keep seeing this on TikTok now, and I love the idea behind it. I just forget halfway through the day, and you can't start this halfway through the day. I like the vlogs, man. I really do. I enjoy the vlogs, the behind the scenes. People do daily vlogs where you wake up, like you go through your day, the coffee, what you do first, what you do after that. And it's just one short, quick hitting blog or vlog. And I love that idea, but I keep forgetting. Um, let's see here. Connor says, I'm not convinced we can get good compensation for Ben. Well, it depends on what you mean by good. If I throw you out the names that I threw you out, which was Sexton and Brogdon and those type of players, does that land in the good category for you, Connor? Or when you say good, do you mean Damian Lillard? It just depends on, I don't know how you define the word good. Should Morey wait until the deadline? This isn't the MLB, though. The NBA doesn't work the same way where, yes, people do make moves at the deadline, but you add the George Hills, you add, a nice shooter off the bench, doing franchise changing moves at the deadline. Why would a team who's in position to win or a position to do something then package up, because at this point in your hypothetical, Ben's value is going up. So why would they be willing to trade one of their stars and a bunch of future first round picks to trade for Ben Simmons, who historically is a disaster in the postseason and has been brutal in the postseason? That's when you're going to pounce on an individual. You're going to break up your team because you're going to have to make the money work. There's going to have to be financial decisions that make that tie together where you're now, you have to balance the money Ben Simmons makes. You're only going to be doing that by players that are talented. So you're going to blow up what's already successful enough to make a deadline move for Ben Simmons, who was bad at the deadline. It's just, or who's bad in the playoffs, if you will. So it's kind of hard for me to digest that one. Random Gamer thinks he's going to the Bulls. I'm calling it now. If we don't go to the Bulls, they will have a better record than us. Well, they have a nice squad right now with DeRozan, with Ball. Who else went there? With Levine, of course, Vucevic. Caruso got paid, I believe, to go to the Bulls, right? So there's your team. They have a nice team. I mean, I'm not going to blow this out of proportion and make it seem like they're going to be one of the most elite teams ever. But they're going to be a nice team. They're going to be competitive. But if, if this is but what you're saying is if we don't trade Ben, so if Ben is back on the Sixers, no, they'll have a better record than the Bulls. The Sixers win 50 plus games every season. They're in the mid 50s every year with Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is a regular season basketball player. You have no problems winning regular season games, but if that's what your motor is, if that's what your destiny is every single year, well then yeah, that's fine if that's what you want to do. Marky, I brought this up in a podcast that I put up a couple days ago, and if you're looking for some Eagles content, then I absolutely advise you go back and listen to that. I think it was, 2 days ago now. I just gave an update on the Devontae Smith injury, Carson Wentz's injury, how that impacts the Eagles, and I brought up Jalen Hurts' accuracy, and there's some issues there. Now, I know the one clip that's showing from the NFL Network is the one that's getting the most intense look, but there is definitely something going on in the accuracy department. Now, I want to go to I was talking to someone who is involved with the Eagles yesterday, covering the Eagles. I want to see if I can find it in some text. And I asked him a few questions about what he saw at camp because this individual is there at camp. And he said this. Okay. I said, Jalen Hurts' his accuracy. A big notice or what? I would say his accuracy is up because he seems to be making the safest pass. I don't know that he's necessarily looking for the receiver that the coaches want him to look for, but without knowing the play call or where the coaches wanted, it's really hard to say. So he's saying that sometimes the accuracy is actually up, and I guess he's talking specifically percentage-wise, but that's because they're not testing the throws, and he's safest pass. I'm saying he's not, testing himself. Maybe he's making the safer passes. But he goes on to continue and says, I can say this with great certainty, though. I'm trying to say Drummond and Dillard. That's what Dillard, and I'm combining it and saying Drillard. Andre Dillard is really struggling, and Jordan Mailata is not. So, how about that? Not that that's surprising. I heard Sheil Kapadia mention that when Andre Dillard ends up getting beat, you could see it. He wears it on his sleeve too much. He's way too extreme about it. He's way too emotional. He's his highs are high and his lows are lows with his body language, and the coaches are doing everything they possibly can to coach him up on that. Well, I mean, how old are we now? We should know, right? I mean, we all played sports. We all know that we were told to keep your emotions in check. I remember being younger and I was a catcher, right? But sometimes they needed me to pitch and I could hold my own. I was your fifth starter, if you will, someone that they were just looking for in a 6-inning game to give you 3 and maybe 1 earned run. It's like, Brodes, we need you today. Okay, all right, I'll step up, see what I can do. But if the blue was giving me a bad strike zone, I'd pound on the mound. I'd pull a Nick Pivetta. I'm bitching, I'm complaining, I'm crying, I'm getting all upset. And I'll never forget my manager at the time, Brodes. And at that time, my nickname was Catfish because a catfish hunter, half of you probably don't even know who the hell that is. But Catfish, which is so weird now because I haven't been called that in 15 years? That is just strange. Catfish. I can't even get that out. It sounds so weird. Relax. Can't be doing this. I learned that. Andre Dillard is how old? Andre Dillard age. 25. 1 year younger than me. He should know. he should know. Drummond is not a good pickup. Well, it's not a bad one. It's a backup center. Let me know what you're trying to pick up financially, too. How much money are you willing to spend in a backup center that is going to play 8 minutes in the playoffs? That's going to play 8 to 10 minutes behind Joel Embiid in the playoffs. It's not a bad pickup. It's just not an elite pickup. Dwight Howard was the best opportunity you had since the Joel Embiid experience occurred. And you just basically replicated Dwight Howard, in my opinion. I don't understand how anyone can despise it, but it definitely isn't amazing. I'm not jumping up and down for joy. I mean, does he suck? I mean, for 12 to 15 minutes, I don't know. I mean, I see him in the same category as Dwight Howard. So I'm sure a lot of people thought Dwight Howard was good last year at times. He was miserable at others. He picked up a lot of fouls. He had some tough rebounding. Sometimes he'd run the floor for 10 minutes and be a spark plug, and enough was enough, and that was what the team needed. I mean, it's all situational, but to say it's absolutely a nightmare and it's terrible. It's a backup center. How much money are you going to throw into that? And how many options are out there? Yeah, I mean, my thing. All right, so my point is this, because now everyone's bringing up how bad he is. Let me know around the NBA who has elite backup centers. I want to know. I want to know what team has elite backup centers. You're not going to find anything like that. So based off of what you're looking for and the role, that's like saying I need elite, like point guard, yes. Sixth man, yeah. There's going to be a sixth man that's better than your bench pieces and better than whoever your backup is to the other 4 positions. But let's go. Let's think about this. When we're specifically targeting that spot on the NBA rosters, let me know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's a great way to throw this out there with catching. You're not going to have elite backup catchers. Now, you can have better than Andrew Knapp. I really do believe that you can have better than Andrew Knapp. But ultimately, yes, when you go to your backup catcher, you can't expect too much. Knowing how they make sure that these catchers don't go too much, and because you have JT Realmuto, you would think that you would have a better backup catcher, knowing that JT and the way that look, I've seen it with Ranger Suarez. They're going to protect their players as much as possible. So you're probably going to see backup catchers more than you would like to, even when you have a position filled with JT Realmuto. So you would think you do better than 159. I think it's funny. Last year he hit 278, and it was a fun story, right? But the reaction was, Brodes, you're an idiot. Andrew Knapp is a fine backup catcher. He's responded to that season with a 159 batting average, a 222 OBP, and the season prior to last year, he hit 213. The year before that, he hit 198. Andrew Knapp's hitting 159. That's just absurd. Hector did good yesterday. And Hector's had some nice stretches. Why everything you're saying is I don't know, dead skull emoji, cracking up emoji? Why are you laughing at Hector Neris? What is there to say about Hector Neris, who in his last 5 starts or 5 appearances, excuse me, has not allowed an earned run since July 10th. Now he's got some walks, but since July 10th, 2/3, 0 hits, 0 earned runs. 1 inning, 1 hit, 0 earned runs. 2 innings, 1 hit, 0 earned runs, 3 strikeouts. 1 inning on July 18th, 0 earned runs, 2 strikeouts. Then he had a tough one against the Yankees. After that, 0 earned runs. So I'll just tell you that Hector Neris, for a decent stretch now, has been what you kind of needed him to be. I don't understand the cracking up emoji, the skull emoji came up big. Oh, mentor, it's Hector in the chat. I apologize. I am sorry. That is on me. It's a lot of comments being thrown around today, and I appreciate that all so much. What do I think about the two pitching prospects could do? Well, I mean, they're very high on Mick Abel. They were very high on Spencer Howard, though. They were very high on Medina at one point, if you remember. They were very high on a lot of these pitchers throughout the last 20 years. So it's hard for me to truly tell. Do I like Mick Abel, though, and his stuff compared to some of the others that we were sold? Yeah. With Andrew Painter, he's kind of way too raw. It's got ways to go. So I can't give you a lot on Andrew Painter, but Mick Abel, I am expecting him to be a reliable rotation piece for this franchise. Hopefully, I don't get fooled for the 9,000th time, though. Well, that's what you need to stop doing, is thinking of Drummond and Ben Simmons on the floor, because there should be no Ben Simmons. So I don't know why you're thinking of both. There should be no Ben Simmons. I got you. Hold on one second. I gotta send it forward this email. I want to make sure it sends. Okay. Ben's coming back. Well, you don't know that. There's a lot of time. There's a lot of things that could be done. There's been a lot of conversations behind the closed doors here that we don't know about. What makes you feel that Ben's coming back? Because Ramona Shelburne said that yesterday on NBA The Jump. I'm still living with the idea of that's how this league works. You leak information to national media. National media then says it on TV. You're getting the message out that you want it to be out, that you'd be willing to keep him, which then puts pressure on some of the other teams that are trying to pile up packages to make a splash for Ben Simmons, because now they think that the Sixers would be okay with keeping Ben. That doesn't mean that they're going to get the original packages that they were asking for. When Daryl Morey asked for some, it's not as if that means they're going to go get all those first-round picks and those pick swaps and the Golden State Warriors, or obviously now it's not going to happen, but with Kyle Lowry and the Toronto Raptors, it's not going to be to that extreme, but there's a sense of urgency that occurs when you put that pressure on the rest of the market. Well, what was the original? I think there was. Well, what she said is what I'm being told, which is a source. Um, she didn't say anything that had to do with the specifics. Well, her saying the Sixers are open to bringing back Ben Simmons, she's saying that from somebody. She's just not making that up her ass. I mean, she is saying that. I want to see if I can find the entire quote. You don't just say that out of nowhere. I want to see if I could. Maybe there's an audio clip or something, but probably not. I think she was informed by people inside to be saying something of that nature. Like, who is she to say that we prefer that? If she's saying that, that means she's hearing it from somewhere, right? She doesn't just say they prefer that. It's all a game. Most teams would have already made major trades, and by then it will be too late. What are we talking about? If we wait longer, I'm confused. I don't know what exactly we're waiting on. Most teams would have already made major trades. What? Are you talking about right now? It's already happened? That's not true. It's not true at all. You're waiting for the right. This is what you do. You wait for the right package to come your way. Sixers are open to keeping Ben. Isn't that like non-news? If we don't get a definite upgrade, of course we're keeping him. Well, I see. We go back to that where you say unless we don't get a definite upgrade. I'm not doing it necessarily if it's like it doesn't only have to be a definite upgrade. I'm willing to do it to stay the same because Ben Simmons can't come back. So if you become the same, which is a second round exit team, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. So for me, it's not definite better. The only way, see, isn't that kind of flawed? If Ben Simmons is a 5, for you to say I'm only doing it for a 7 or an 8 or a 9, that's the only way I'm doing it. Well, he's a 5. So if he's a 5, I'm willing to trade him for 5. Would I love a 7, 8, 9? Absolutely. But if he's worth a 5 and I get back 5 in return, then I'm okay with that. No, like this is aggressive. Daryl Morey is not going to do Ben Simmons for Buddy Hield. Like that's not going to happen. There's already been discussions with that Sacramento Kings team, though. I saw one with Hield, Halliburton, and Bagley. Now we're talking. Now that's something that I would be okay with doing. If you're telling me you can get Halliburton, you can get Bagley, and you can get yourself Buddy Hield in return for Ben Simmons, now we're having the dialogue. Now I think I'm pulling the trigger on a trade of that value. But that's different than just Buddy Hield. How would trading Ben be an emotional move after 5 seasons? Your name is Negadelph, and you're the one claiming that this is too emotional? How is this too emotional? It's been 5 years. Like, oh my God. Dude, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. What do you mean no one's going to look at him in the regular season and forget about the postseason woes. It's not going to be recency bias. Oh, yeah, he's playing the same exact style that he has for 4 years in the regular season. This means something's going to change when it matters most. They have an idea. Now, there's still value in him, but they have an idea of the flaws, and they recognize what's going on. No one this is what goes back to. Who's making a trade for him when their team is good? If you're thinking about deadline moves, people make acquisitions for the deadline to make your team better for a playoff push. Who's going to look at Ben Simmons, see his, quote, stock rise, and then start pulling pieces from their already successful team to add someone who has historically been bad in the playoffs? Doesn't make sense. I don't understand what you're saying at all. What team in November is going to break down their team that's not willing to do it now, though? You're talking about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games into the season. It's just not logical. It's not logical at all. No, it's not because of recency bias. It's because of 5 years of evidence. This is from 5 years of bad playoffs in the second round. It's more than just this round. It's, okay, he had a bad playoff season or a bad playoff series. But what has happened in all the other set? Oh, the same thing. The same thing. He stands in the dunker spot and does nothing for every second round that he has been a part of. So it's not just this year that's recency biased. It's going back and looking at every second round he has been a part of and how he has played. He stood underneath the basket. Yeah, but no one, it doesn't make sense. No, it doesn't. You're just saying it does. You're just saying his value goes up when the season starts, but no, it doesn't. You're just saying that. There's nothing to make that actually valid. I could say a lot of things. The recency bias in 2018-19, his stock was high when in talks for, well, that's because every player is young and raw. When you talk about 3 years ago, my man is what, 21 years old at that point in the 2018 season. If he just turned 25 by 21, 22 years old. So yeah, I mean, that's how prospects work. Basically, you are betting on the growth of the jump shot. You are betting on the individual getting more talent. Now you know that the talent did not come and the addition of his game did not really take that next step in stride. So it was obvious. So now it's kind of, known. But what you look at him for 3-4 years ago is you're betting on him to acquire that next addition to his game. You no longer really have that to bet on. Therefore, you lose stock. Ben's value across the league is different compared to how the fan base values him. I don't think GMs around the league necessarily take his recent performance that heavily. No, I think they do. I think there's also a lot of elements that are involved. I do agree with your assessment, though, that the league views him differently than fans do, not just here in Philadelphia, but all around the league in general. There is something to be said about that. So there is still teams that are interested. There's another element where there's some markets that can't land the big fish. And with Ben Simmons' contract, you can land a player like Ben Simmons. Not all these teams have the luxury of landing free agents, okay? So the fact that you can get a, quote, star, quote, and sell jerseys, Australia, there's a business model here to follow as well. Now, I saw Mike Gill tweet this out. I don't know if this was on the 97.3 page or if it was from his own personal. It might have been from his own. No, I think it was actually from the 97.3 page. Let me see if I can find it. But it's talking about how the teams around the league talk about Ben Simmons and his defense and all that, yada, yada, yada. Let's see. Damn, was it his personal? All right, I'll go back to his personal, see if I can find it. I really do want to look for it, though. Normally I would have found it by now, so maybe I'm not. I talked about it a little bit on the podcast, though, about how people around the league value Ben Simmons' defense, and they talk about how amazing it is, and yada, yada, yada. But that's all great and dandy. He can't play half the game, though. He literally can't play half of the sport of basketball because he has no offensive structure. Now, where would this go? Where would this go? Oh, no, that's not it. No, that's Kyle Gibson. All right, let me Google it maybe because I do want to bring that up. Ben Simmons defense voted versatile defender. I don't know. I feel like that's part of it. Okay. NBA coaches vote Sixer star Ben Simmons. Okay, here you go. I found the quote I'm looking for. I'll get to your donation in one moment, Sixers 205. Okay, so this is what has happened. The Athletic polled the NBA coaches anonymously, and Simmons was voted as the league's best defender. He received 7 first-place votes, while Gobert had 5, and Draymond Grumman had 1. Size, speed, strength, ability to guard small, ability to guard big. What more do you want? He has it all. Length, shot blocking ability. They're such a dynamic team when he's on the floor. quick in the passing lanes to get steals. That's his contribution to the game. I know Gobert is Gobert and he blocks a lot of shots and does everything, but Simmons is so disruptive. You can't go wrong with either guy, but the versatility with Simmons is what puts him over the top for me. Now, I guess with this, your angle is specifically to look at the best defender. So you're not going to bring up the offensive side of the game, right? No one's going to say he's a great defender, but he stinks offensively. This is being pulled for specifically looking at the defensive side of the court. So with that, I get it. But it's like all that is true. All of that is legitimate. And that's how teams, there are coaches that foam out the mouth thinking of that description right there and saying, this guy can do something on my team. If I had my hands on him, I'll make him work with the passing ability and the defense. I don't care about the non-shooting. I'll find a way to make this work. That's what they think when they read, when they write a description about Ben Simmons this way. It's completely flawed because you're missing out on one side of the game, but that's what they do. They get so sucked into this that they forget the other side, and they forget how much that really is going to impact their offense. But teams would be willing to take a shot on a guy that gets that type of description. Okay, Sixers 205 with a $5 donation. Phillies wise, it will be nice to have something to be excited about in August, September that isn't a minor league call up. Well, you don't necessarily know what's going to happen. I won't get my hopes up just yet, is my point. Who knows? They could get swept by the New York Mets, and then you're sitting in disgrace and filth once again, right? I mean, if you're just looking at the track record of this team, there's probably going to be some moments that are disappointing and upsetting and frustrating coming up in the next week or two. You were probably going to be engaged, though, by default. You're right. Inevitably, the Mets and the Phillies are going to be real neck and neck and super close, and coming down the stretch, they're going to be 1.5, 2 games back, and, someone's going to have to close this bad boy out. So there is truth to that for sure, but I'm also not ruling out the Phillies blowing up and just falling apart within seconds, because I've seen that too. I knew that was going to happen last night. 1.5 games back. Zach Wheeler pitches a gem for the most part. I know the home run by Josh Bell puts a sour taste on the stat line, but he was definitely nice and solid for a 7 1/3. Hector Neris and Jose Alvarado. That 9th inning, I mean, everyone was having basically the worst heart pain in the world when you heard Tom McCarthy say, Jose Alvarado's warming up, and then you bring Ian Kennedy in here to utilize him in closing situations, and you've done, in the last 3 games, you've done the complete opposite and used him in non-save situations and bizarre moments. I think it's just wild to see the Ian Kennedy experience go the way that has gone to this point. No, it's not a lose-lose, Carmen. So Carmen says, I do not want Ben back for his sake and ours, but I don't see a package that advances us past the second round. I see a package that keeps you in the second round, though, and I'd be willing to do that. I'd be willing to get yourself in a spot where you are still a second-round team, and from there you make moves and you get back on 5-on-5 basketball. I'm so desperate to get back to 5-on-5 basketball. If you can stay second-round territory, and that's where you're not losing anything. I don't get why that's looked at as such a negative, because I know why. There was one today where Ben Simmons got you so much that this is the half full concept, the glass half full or half empty, instead of half full. But it's not lose-lose if you're staying the same. You're just neutral. And then from there, you can tweak your roster. Ryan Carley has a $2 donation. How do I feel about the Iron Pigs? I really don't have much thoughts on the Iron Pigs, to be honest with you. I did see the story that happened over the last week or so, and I'm praying for the family and for everyone who was involved in that scary situation. But in terms of Iron Pigs baseball, other than keeping up with specific prospects and just looking at their individual statistics, I don't really have a care for their team's success. So that's really where I'm at with the Iron Pigs. But thank you so much for the donation. You lose something if you don't get anything to benefit in the future. It is a loss if you trade for an older guy that doesn't benefit the team. Well, that's not what we're doing in these hypotheticals. It's Malcolm Brogdon. It's Colin Sexton. It's Buddy Hield and Halliburton. It's all players that are younger. And while I agree to some degree, I also disagree because I was afraid of the Chris Paul drama before Chris Paul's contract, how old he was. Well, with where Joel Embiid is and the window of opportunity that you need to seize here, I'm more willing to look at a 33-year-old, 34-year-old, 35-year-old than I ever would have in a million years for Ben Simmons because of the timeline of Joel Embiid. So I used to be more on that side. I'm understanding on what you're saying, but now I'm definitely transitioned to, well, Chris Paul has shut me up because there's something to be said about being that old. And so I bet you Kyle Lowry shut some people up. He's not going to be worth that money. Well, they said the same thing about Chris Paul. I bet you him and Jimmy Butler have a nice season together. Now, I'm not telling you they're championship caliber, but I'm not writing Kyle Lowry off because of where he is in his age and how much money he was demanding. Yeah, see, Connor is basically mentioning this right now. Because of the age, he's relieved that they did not do that. I would once feel that way, and if it was Lowry plus a handful of other stuff, then it's different. I don't think Morey would have done it unless it was Kyle Lowry end pieces, and those end pieces would have been something that would have made me probably feel better about things where it's not you're not just swapping Lowry for Ben Simmons. So, with that idea, it would have been Lowry plus and I would have been okay with Lowry plus, to be honest with you. How do I feel about the Heat's activity? They signed Jimmy Butler to the big deal, which is what you do when you have Jimmy Butler there. It's funny, right? Everyone who hates Ben Simmons, which is a lot of people, say, why would the Sixers even give him the big money? Why would they ever spend that much money on that contract for Ben Simmons? That's what you do in this league. No matter age, no matter the potential, no matter how great you are. Jimmy Butler's not elite, elite, elite. Jimmy Butler's a good player with dog in him. He's not elite, elite, elite. But you pay your guys. That's what you do. You pay big money to players that you expect to perform at a high level. And that's what they did with Jimmy Butler. That's what the Sixers did with Ben Simmons. That's what you do all around the league. The Sixers aren't stupid for signing Ben Simmons to the deal at the time. They're not dumb for signing Joel Embiid to big time money and looking at what's available for the future here in Joel Embiid with that big time money, even with the injury concerns. You pay your dogs, you pay your top guys. That is how this league works. So Jimmy Butler gets some big time cash. Ben Simmons gets some big time cash. Joel's going to get some big time cash. Russell Westbrook, who stinks, gets big time cash. You get big time cash. The Sixers are not outliers for paying an individual like Ben Simmons, even if he falls flat on his face. That's how this league goes. Well, I disagree, Nick, because everyone said the season the Toronto Raptors won it all was their season. Now everyone's claiming that last season was their season. It's just the Sixers are in the window. So you can make that assumption every year. Well, the Golden State Warriors were banged up, and if they got by Toronto, they would have beat the Bucks. I don't know how you could just assume that they would beat the Bucks, but anyway, that season was quote the Sixers' year. Now, last season was quote the Sixers' year. It can't be every year. Were they dumb to throw? Yeah, but Tobias is in a different level of Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons potential, and things of that nature. So at the time, I supported giving the money because you couldn't let both of them walk after making those trades. But Tobias does have an asterisk next to it because of, I'm talking more about the players of the Jimmy Butler, the Ben Simmons caliber of players, which I think everyone, even at the time, would admit that Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris were in a different category, but you couldn't let both walk. So they handcuffed themselves into that spot. That's different than the others, but that is yeah, that's different than what I was referencing before. Now someone said I missed a donation. I don't think I did, and if I did, I apologize. But I got Sixers 205 and I got the Phillies one, so I don't see one in my chat for a super chat that I missed. So, yeah. The Nets are probably going to be healthy this whole year. The Nets are probably not going to be healthy this whole year, says Zach. Well, it's hard to be, right? I mean, yeah, you're right. Every team goes through injuries. So to say the Nets are going to go through 82 games and a playoff run without having any nicked up injuries is probably a foolish assumption. Yeah, they're probably not going to be healthy. But if they are, the Patty Mills move was strong, though. You signed him. He's nice help. People were not happy that he went in that direction, and the Sixers did not pounce on that. How do I feel about the Phillies rotation in Wheeler, Nola, Eflin, Gibson, and Suarez? Well, I don't believe Eflin's going to return with any sort of legitimate run in him because he's hurt, and I think he's actually hurt. There's a reason why Suarez got moved to the starting rotation. I think it's because Eflin is actually banged up pretty good. And when he does come back, am I supposed to expect Zach Eflin to be the Zach Eflin that we need him to be? I guess I just have a lot of concerns on the Zach Eflin train. So Wheeler, Nola, Eflin, Gibson, and Suarez. I mean, it's not horrendous. It's not Matt Moore, Vince Velasquez, and Chase Anderson being in that back half. So it's nice. It's nice. I'll say that. It's nice. It's not great. It's not amazing. Nice. Patty Mills is, if I could spell his name right, 32. So I don't know if you expected him to be older than that, but 32 is the answer. But when did he come in the league? At 21. So he's been in the league for 11 seasons. I guess technically 12 NBA seasons after you add them all up. Should the Sixers trade Tobias because of his contract? You shouldn't trade Tobias and keep Ben. Ben is number one target. Ben is what needs to be moved. If you move Tobias Harris and you keep Ben Simmons, nothing really changes other than just the surrounding pieces of the problem. The problem's still here. You're just changing what's around the problem. To me, that is really counterproductive. Or it's not productive. You're making a mistake. Would I be anti-trading Tobias? No, I'm not anti-trading Tobias Harris, but this concept that you're going to trade Ben Simmons and Tobias throughout this league with the snap of your fingers in one offseason and just change your team completely, I think is a little foolish as well. There's a lot of pressure to get one done. To get two done is a little extreme and aggressive. I just don't see both happening. So if there's one that has to go down, it's Ben Simmons over Tobias any day of the week. Would I be willing to look at concepts for him? Yeah, no doubt. Obviously, he's overpaid. But I also think that there's a lot to him that people undervalue and underappreciate. 20 points per game, and he closed a lot of those games with Joel Embiid as the Robin. He was very important to this team's success. You don't just find 20 points per game flirting around. Now, is he the most efficient? No, not necessarily, not at certain times. Can he be more efficient? Yeah, he's going to have to be. He's going to have to even take a bigger step. He took a big step last year. We can all admit that under Doc Rivers, he improved tremendously and was way more of a force than he was the season before. But he has more to go. And I do sense, though, with Tobias that he is capped out on who he is. You could win with Toby being your third guy. I mentioned this with Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday did not have some fantastic elite NBA playoff run. He was a good defender and made a difference on that end of the floor, which Tobias has grown in that area too, may I add. His versatility on the D end has definitely picked up a lot. But with Drew Holiday, he was the third guy, and the third guy had nice nights and he had some bad nights. If Tobias is your third guy having nice nights and bad nights, as long as you have someone, the problem is, you had Middleton and Giannis. Right now, you just have Embiid. You thought Ben Simmons would be that guy, but he wasn't. So now you have to rely on somebody else, and that is an issue. Well, Ryan, he barely done anything. he's done nothing but sign a backup big man and a 4. So he's really done nothing. Brian says, I really hope Morey has something up his sleeve. He's been underwhelming. He's done nothing. he's signed backup pieces. So, of course, he's been underwhelming. There hasn't been anything that was done. Yeah, exactly. I'm with you, Todd. It's like right now, you really don't have much to do. Yes, there's the mid-level exception, and that's something that they're going to target and acquire eventually. But nothing can really go down splash-wise until you look at Ben Simmons. Until the first domino falls, there's not as if there's a plethora of ideas that you can go down right now. Ben Simmons has to be moved first, and then you know what you need and what pieces you have to surround this team with and what direction the franchise goes from there. So it's hard to really make that first push and make that first surge until that first domino goes down. Now, someone's saying Woj tweeted. What did Woj tweet? Kemba Walker is finalizing a buyout with the Thunder, and the New York Knicks will sign him for a 4-year deal. Okay. I told you that Kemba Walker stinks. I want nothing to do with Kemba Walker. And look, he's getting bought out. Kemba Walker stinks. Going to the Knicks. I don't think there should be any worry about Kemba Walker. Okay, come on, man. This is a troll and everybody knows it. The team failed because of the coach and not because of Ben. Normally, I don't give morons the time of day like this, but you hit me on the right day. There you go. Yeah, it's been so let me get this straight. It was Brett Brown, and now it's Doc Rivers, and then what? Let's say Doc Rivers gets canned and it's the next coach. At what point is it the player? I guess is the question. At what point does it actually go on the player? Because if it was Brett Brown's fault, now it's Doc Rivers' fault. When is it the next guy? When the next guy comes in, let's say it's Sam Cassell, then what happens? It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy and ridiculous how this mind goes. Yeah, it's fine. Kemba can go to the Knicks all he wants. Kemba is nothing special. He's just a nice player. That's all he is. He's a nice player. No, there's definitely blame for Doc Rivers. I mean, you can definitely blame Doc for situations, utilizing certain bench guys, going deep in a playoff run in game 7. There's no reason to go that deep off of your bench. Certain rotations were a disaster. Playing Ben Simmons with Matisse Thybulle and Dwight Howard when there's no spacing on the floor and wondering why that there's problems in that limited amount of time. But then there's also, hey, you're not shooting the basketball, Ben. You're sitting there doing nothing, Ben. Wow. So plus 28 and plus 17. You're looking at the plus. Imagine using plus minus to defend Ben Simmons. God bless your soul. I would normally take the initiative here to go back and forth, but at some point, it's just not worth my time. I pick and choose my battles. And if someone is unaware to see Ben Simmons sucks at the offensive side of basketball, and that's on nobody but himself, then I really, to each their own. If that's what you want to tell yourself, if that's what you want to convince yourself, if that's the angle you want to take and you really love Ben Simmons and you got 9,000 posters on your wall of him and thinking about him, then by all means, have at it. Now, I'm not going to ruin your day. You can feel that way all you want. Simmons not shooting makes Embiid's job so much harder, no doubt. If we had a point guard that penetrates the lane like we saw with Trae Young and Capella, imagine if Embiid had a point guard like that. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. And another part of that, too, though, is it would be different because you wouldn't just run lobs like the other teams do with the pick and roll. There's so much more versatility with Joel Embiid that you wouldn't just do that same play over and over and over again with the pick and roll. It would work, though. Joel getting to the rim that easily would be a dominating force. But just a pick and roll, which is basketball 101. It's in basketball for dummies, and it's the basic way to play the sport. You can't even do it. You cannot even run the most basic play in all of sports, which is a pick and roll. It just can't happen. Imagine if Ben just shot 70%. Yeah, and look, is there a correlation between how bad he was at the free throw line and his unwillingness to shoot in general underneath the basket? Yeah, probably. But even for me, if Ben, and I'm not saying you're saying this, Carmen, but in general, there is like a thought that maybe if he just got better at his free throws, you could live with that. And it's not the truth. I mean, to say that at this point, you're just lying to yourself. It's over and over again. You're just lying to yourself that that's okay. It's not okay. It's not okay. Just the free throws is not okay. He needs to legitimately add a jump shot to his game. Enough is enough of saying he doesn't need to. In the regular season, you can get by. If that's your goal, regular season, then by all means, that's your goal. But that's not my goal here. So if you think it's okay for him to just distribute and score in other ways because the team scoring's up, well, it's flawed. And we saw that it's flawed because the Sixers used that method and he fell flat on his face. He needs to, in the fourth quarter, be able to actually have a defender respect him. And if they don't, you're going to see what you saw for the last 4 years now, which is stand and do absolutely nothing. It does. It goes to his reluctantness, not so much to shoot, well, maybe to shooting, but to be aggressive. He won't go downhill. He won't attack the rim because he knows the opponent is going to foul him on purpose and send his ass to the line. maybe if he was better at finishing and felt more confident in finishing in general, he would finish through the contact so that free throw is only one and it's for a 3-point play instead of a 2-point play. And he feels like, hey, I'm gonna make this bucket anyway. There's an element to getting better there as well. But yeah. Yeah, see, this dumbass continues to go on and says he's basically a scapegoat of Doc and Tobias Harris. I think this is so asinine that I'm just going to block him. That's how, like, you're allowed to have your own opinion, by all means. You're allowed to have your own opinion. But, I mean, that's so irrational that I can't even handle it today. Maybe you caught me on the wrong day. See, I said maybe you caught me on the right day because I gave you the first initial time. Then I said, nah, you know what? I'm not going to respond. And then now it's like, I don't even want to see your comment. So, unfortunately, that's just so outrageous. I can't even give it a time of day. Kid is only 25. It's only up from here. Okay. He's going to have to develop. Yep. Yes, I would agree with that. Unless he's getting fizzled out of the league, it's his job to shut up the fans. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And he's doing that by doing nothing other than posting videos on social media of himself taking a jump shot. The classic. I mean, isn't he dumb to do that? Don't you think Ben is like what he's doing it on purpose? We talk about how unaware and oblivious he is. Don't you think that at this point he knows what he's doing with the Instagram stories, hanging out with his boys, like he's trying to send a message on purpose? Maybe he is that oblivious. Maybe he is that just so unaware of his surroundings that he doesn't know. But come on, dude. You would think you would know. Just crazy. All right, with that, I want to apologize for the late start because we had some technical difficulties. So I went about 10 minutes late to make up for that. I want to thank everybody so much for hanging out today in Coffee with Brodes. We have the Phillies tonight. We'll see if they go a half game back. I find it hard to believe the Mets will drop another one to the Marlins, but we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. I want to thank everyone so much for hanging out with me today, and I will catch you guys.